Welcome back to Landscape Smart, presented by Rademann Stone and Landscape Company. I am Matt Hinker, and joining me today is Ron Rademann and Master Gardener Delores. Phone lines are open for your questions, so give us a call at 923-1450 or 1-888-900-1450. Can't give us a call? Shoot us an email at kfizstudio@gmail.com. And Delores, you mentioned here off air that Japanese beetles are something that we're going to be starting to see here, or possibly already are. So why don't we talk a little bit? I know we've talked about them before, but might as well hit it again here on both what we can do if you're maybe not seeing them, things you can do to prevent, and then also if you are battling them now, what you can do.
I would put diatomaceous earth around the plants that the Japanese beetles like, and it won't kill them now, but it will kill the nymphs.
Right.
And so come next year, you shouldn't have as many. And right now, get a bucket of soapy water and flick them off into the bucket. They just can't handle that.
Right.
Soapy water is very good for many, many bugs, and it doesn't hurt your plants. So that's a very simple solution. But milky spore around your plants is supposed to help. I couldn't find it last year, and so I've just sprinkled it this year when I found it. And we'll see how it works. So,
well, and right now they're kind of just coming. They're emerging. They're coming out of. They're in your lawn right now, and you'll start seeing them if you maybe over the last week or into the next week. They're changing into the adults, and they'll come out of your lawn and start going into other, plants. As far as like some of the trees that we'll see them, they'll start showing up a lot of times on some of the linden varieties, the greenspire linden, Rademann linden, some of those the silver linden seems to be better. They don't bother the silver linden as much as the other lindens. But you'll also see them in birch and Norway maple, and those you're going to have to spray if you're getting them. You aren't going to be able to knock them out of your tree into soapy water. You're going to have to spray those and they'll totally within about a week they'll defoliate a whole tree if it gets bad. So you'll all of a sudden you'll just look at and you'll see looks like your tree is turning brown. Well, what's happening is they've pretty much eaten the green part. They kind of skeletonize the leaves. And so then you kind of lose the green, and then you start seeing more of the skeletonization. And you'll see it more on the tops initially, a lot of times like right at the peak. So you got to kind of just do almost twice a week inspections, I guess, if you're in areas that are more prone to Japanese beetle. In Fond du Lac, we don't have as much of a problem, and that doesn't mean you won't have a problem in Fond du Lac, but generally we see more problems in more of the outlying areas. It seems more prevalent up in the Holy Land. You get into more St. Peter area, or otherwise as you get out of the Fond du Lac areas, more into Rosendale and Ripon and Oakfield and Lemira, out that way, Brownsville, and even especially as you get over into the Green Lake and the Dells area. But I mean, it can be, you can lose trees you can lose them over it. Now, sometimes they can survive it 1 year, but if they get them a second year, then a lot of times you're going to, and it doesn't always show up like immediately. You'll just have, all of a sudden you'll notice more winter damage or more frost cracking or more other problems that they kind of bring on because the tree is fighting through this. And as the beetles eat the leaves, or skeletonize the leaves, then the tree will put out more new growth. But sometimes if that growth comes on too late into the season, now this year if they're regrowing already in early July, it's not as bad as if they try to regrow in August or September. That's when you end up with a problem, because the tree thinks it's spring. It's starting to regrow leaves, and
when it shouldn't be doing that.
So you're going to have to, spray, and for the most part, you just have to. We haven't don't spray when it's above 85 degrees, but we haven't had too many 85-degree days. The trick might be just trying to catch it in between the rain showers. And there too,
good luck.
Well, and you could actually spray, and an hour later it could, it could rain, but you'd still would knock most of the population down just by spraying and quickly, because it doesn't take Japanese beetles. If you spray them, they'll spray them out of the trees. They'll just drop. It moves pretty quick. It works pretty well. Yeah. So, and there's the insecticide 8 works well on Japanese beetle, and there's a few other good ones too that'll work if you happen to have something else on your shelf in the garage. I would be more inclined to try that before I just go out and pick up another product, because most any of those insecticides will work on Japanese beetle. At least control them to a point where they aren't going to. And again, you don't have to kill every last one. You just have to knock the population from 90% or 100% down to 5 or 10 or 15%, and that the trees can handle that.
Right. It's when they're absolutely infested and they become a buffet for a number of them. Tell you what, we have a caller, so we will turn to the phone lines. You're on Landscape Smart. Go ahead with your name and question for Ron and Delores.
Hi. I am wondering, last week I heard Ron say something about using Roundup to kill weeds at this time of year. And I don't know, did he say it does not work at this time of year, only turns them brown?
Well, typical. Now, Roundup has so many different products on the market. You have to be super careful. But the original Roundup, which is glyphosate, just does not work well especially on your tough weeds, thistles and burdocks and especially not, I think we were talking about poison ivy at the time.
That's right.
And it won't work at all on poison ivy. It's glyphosate is generally, it says on there it kills everything, but what it does is it kind of harms everything and kills grass. So if you spray it on your trees, it won't do them any good, but it won't kill them. If you spray it on poison ivy or chickweed, it'll slow them down, but it won't kill them. It's not a good weed killer, a good broadleaf killer.
It works much better in the fall when the sugars are going down and to store strength for the winter. So then it will take up the Roundup and go down to the roots, and that's when you want to kill it. Roundup does make a product for killing poison ivy, and that does work. I had a 20 by 20 patch that I just killed.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's confusing when you have Roundup on the shelf in your garage, because you have to be so careful. You have to read it, and as the label starts to fade, and or
print gets smaller.
So that's why I just don't like I don't have any Roundup products at all. We don't sell any Roundup products at Rademann's. We don't sell, and I don't like, because it's just you have to read the fine print before you use it on anything, because if you spray it on the wrong product, you're going to kill the wrong product.
Yep.
Right.
Where if you have cleanup is a great grass killer. it has glyphosate in it, just like the original Roundup does. But when you see cleanup, you know that you can. It's going to kill your grass.
Yeah.
It's going to kill your grass on your lawn. It's going to kill your grass on your patio. It's going to kill your grass in between your perennials and things like that. But it won't kill thistles. It won't kill.
Any
Don't spray
broadleaf.
it on your lawn because it'll. And that's where you can remember that cleanup. Don't spray on your lawn, and then. Weed be gone, you spray on the weeds on your lawn, weed beater ultra, those, when it says weed beater on it, it's pretty much a weed killer and not a grass killer. Again, at least at the products that we have at Rademann's, we try to keep them simple so that you don't make that error.
Right.
But to kind of get back to your question is, you might get a decent kill on if you, like right now, if you would take your string trimmer and mow these weeds off and then spray it with a weed killer, you'd get pretty good kill. The same thing with grass. If you take your string trimmer and cut the grass back, it'll grow and you can kill it right now. A lot of years in July, you take your string trimmer, you mow it off, it isn't going to grow back.
Because it's not
Right.
growing.
Because it's not growing, and then you'll, like Delores said, you'll end up with your best kill typically on grass killers during the early part of September. So
One thing we learned in our Master Gardener classes was when you buy a product to use on your plants, read the directions when you buy it, read the directions when you apply it, and read the directions on how to get dispose of it if you have
Yeah.
leftovers. But always read your directions
Yes.
before you use it, because it's so easy to do the wrong thing, and we don't need all those extra chemicals in our soils.
Right. And I did buy cleanup this year.
good.
And right, but if I use it in between my flowers to kill the grass that's coming up in between the flowers, what happens?
Well, it basically what will happen if you're spraying on the grass in between your flowers, it'll kill the grass, and you might get some damage, some of the leaves on some of the flowers. They may turn brown a little bit, but it probably, it doesn't do them any good, but it also probably wouldn't kill them.
Okay.
And, you could also, take a cardboard sheet or corrugated, piece of, a part of a corrugated box and make yourself a little bit of a shield and protect your flowers from some of the overspray. But again, if you got a little bit on it, you wouldn't really hurt them,
You can buy a diffuser for around your sprayer. I've seen them, but I didn't find any, so I just used a Dixie cup right around the sprayer, and that way you really can control where you're spraying and you don't get overspray.
Okay.
But yeah, it should, you should get good luck spraying cleanup at this time of year, especially. You're in Wisconsin or?
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if because it is, the grass is actually growing rather well yet at this, at right now. So you will get decent kill by spraying cleanup at this time. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yep, not a problem.
I always enjoyed the show, so thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for the call.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice to clarify it, or sometimes you start listening in and you kind of miss the first half of the question, and you get the answer, but not always the question.
Right, yep.
So then you have to go back on YouTube and watch us on YouTube to get the...
Great call out there.
You listen to the rerun.
Yep, go to the rerun.
Or call back.
Sorry
or
about
call
that.
back. That's okay, too.
Yep. All right. And the phone lines are now starting to light up. You're on Landscape Smart. You have a question for Ron and Delores?
No, I do not have a question, but I am holding a box. It says Traps Beetles, Protects Your Yard, Spectracide, and it's Bag and a Bug. Bag a Bug, Japanese Beetle Trap. Lets the entire beetle, last the entire beetle season. And actually what it is like there's a bag that it's a little plastic bag, and then there's a little,
it's
just a little.
Beetle traps are kind of, they attract the beetles. So, is that what you want or what you don't want? First, if you have a handful of them, it'll attract them and kill them. If your neighbor has them by the thousands, it's going to just bring them from their yard into yours. So, and it won't kill them all. It'll capture some of them in there, but.
My neighbors have 2 Concord grapevine bushes, and I have one, and they're maybe like 15 feet apart. And last year she put out, it's like a little wire stand, and then it's a bag. And I have more results with this Bag a Bug Japanese beetle trap because it lasts for the entire season. So I'm going to put that out, and between her Concord grapevines and my Concord grapevines, and hopefully I'll collect a lot because they're on the Japanese beetles are on already the Concord grapevines.
Yeah, it's kind of been a couple weeks already now. Typically, it's usually right around the 1st of July, but this season was a little bit ahead. So, and if you've got a small Japanese beetle population, then these spectricides traps, will work, especially if you're just trying to keep them off of specific, like grapevines, as in your case.
Yes.
So, and you don't necessarily want to be spraying, pesticides, insecticides on your grapes.
No.
There's a big difference. Yeah, so yes, you're doing it right with what you're doing it on grapes, and because you don't want to be spraying chemicals and then eating the fruit. That's definitely not good. So
okay. Well, thank you kindly, and I always enjoyed listening every Saturday morning before Jerry and Karen Schneider's program, Landscape Smart.
They're here and smiling at us.
They're here. They're ready to rock and roll.
Ready to roll.
They have your favorite polka hits ready to go.
So you can call back in just a couple of minutes, and Karen will take your call.
That's right.
I thank you, and enjoy the rest of the summer and the rest of 2024.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah, that's a good point. What works for some isn't always the best for others, and what's the best for others isn't always what works for some. And if you've got limited, if you don't have if you've got just a few Japanese beetle and they're bothering a specific plant in your yard, that works. That's a good. So I'm glad she called in, because those are again, there's no two situations alike, and I'm thinking of a 30 or 40 foot elm tree or a linden, and I'm thinking, that a beetle trap isn't going to do it. It's not going to. What it does do, though, those beetle traps, it kind of alerts you to the problem, so you can use them even to monitor your yard. And and a lot of times even the Department of Agriculture, you'll see Japanese beetle traps out in the countryside as you're driving around. And, that way they can kind of just monitor the populations to know if they want to do any aerial spraying and things like that. So,
but the traps do attract them. It has a pheromone in there that says, "Hey, I'm your buddy.
Come on over.
Come on over, and we'll make more."
Yep.
Yeah. So if you don't have them in your yard, you don't want to attract them with a trap.
Right. You don't have them. Keep it that way.
That's right. You could put the trap like at the end of the block.
and there are, we'll talk about this again now next week, but I like using more of the soil drenches to control the grubs and the
Right.
larvae state. And like Delores mentioned with the diatomaceous earth, then you're not spraying it on your grapes. You're not spraying it
Right.
on your raspberries,
Yep.
things like that. So
Always good if you can prevent something. Usually, right? It's always
Right.
easier to try to prevent something than actually deal with it in the aftermath. So, Ron, Delores, thank you so much for the show.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, not a problem. All right, don't go anywhere as the Jerry and Karen Schneider Polka Show will be coming up right here on 1450 KFIZ and 101.7 The Bull.